People always say that you have to have money to make money, and that there's an extraordinary level of sacrifice on the road to success. So how is it that investors like us, who didn't start out with much money and who don't rely on banks and credit, how is it that we can increase our income and build our wealth in a way that doesn't require us replacing one full-time job with another while still enjoying the things in life that matter most to us? That has always been the big question, and this podcast reveals the answers. I am Carrie Like, and this is the Investor Warrior. Warriors, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all having a fantastic week. I am really excited for today's episode because I have with me a mentor and a good friend, Greg Pinneo, on with us today. And Greg and I really only met less than a year ago. But since I have met Greg, my life has been wonderfully disturbed in many ways. And so I'm just so grateful for you to come on here today, Greg. Thank you so much for spending the next hour of your life here with us on this show.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, no, always a privilege. I think you're doing an amazing job. And so here we go. Tell me how I can help.
Here we go. All right, you guys, you're going to be in for a ride. I want you to start out with, how did it all begin? Now, you've got decades of real estate investing experience, much more than I, much more than probably most people on here. Where did it all begin?
By the way, it's probably good that I didn't have an outline in advance of this, so I can just go where I feel like I need to go.
Absolutely.
I'm going to try to keep it as short and succinct as possible. My brother and I have a brother a year and a half older than I am. We were raised knowing that the night you graduate from high school, you're an adult. And when you look up adult in our family dictionary, it means you don't live here. It means if you want to go to college, and we hope you do, good luck with that. It means come a couple times a year, don't bring your dirty laundry, bring something to contribute. And that isn't a bad thing. It was an exciting thing. We just knew that was it. And so in anticipation of that, I started doing a lot of research in my sophomore year of high school. Where am I going to live? Where am I going to go? I was trying to get into the University of Washington. And because I wasn't some brain surgeon, just getting a 3.4 or 3.5 average to get in was something I had to work at. But it got serious in my junior year. Started researching. I'm not a dorm guy. I'm not a people guy. Matter of fact, I'm an extreme introvert. And so the thought of living around people just mortified me. And so I started looking at rental houses near campus that I could rent. And at such a meeting early in my senior year, I pulled up to this house. It was an absolute wreck. It was basically uninhabitable. And the guy opened the door and said, walk through, look around. And I walked in and went, oh my God, where do you start? And I came out and he said, well, what do you think? And I said, I'm kind of a shy guy. And I said, gosh, I'm not sure I want to tell you what I really think. And he said, no, give it to me. Just give it to me straight. I said, well, listen, I know how to do everything that this house needs. My dad has taught me how to do everything that way. I could put on a roof. I could make it nice. But if I were going to do all that work, I'd want to own this thing rather than rent it. And he said, well, maybe you should buy it from me. And I have no idea why, but maybe it was just the mood I was in. But I said, well, maybe I should, like I didn't know how to spell real estate.
Yeah.
But he asked me a few questions. What did I have saved up? I said $1,000. I thought that was a lot of money. And he said, well, tell me about your credentials. I thought, well, I'm a pretty good student. I'm a pretty good athlete. I'm like fishing for things, and I said, oh, I'm the state's youngest Eagle Scout. And he said, really? I said, yeah. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. If I were all those things, it'd be great. But at least I knew I knew what I was supposed to be. Well, maybe that impressed him. Maybe it didn't. But the next thing you know, he wrote out this. He went to his pocket. He looked at this book. He says, "Can you afford $206.10 a month?" And I went, maybe. Like, what are you saying? He said, I'll sell you the house for $25,000. I'll take your $1,000 down. You'll owe me $24,000. Here's the interest rate. Your payment to me will be $206.10 a month. He said, are you 18? I said, well, I'm not quite, but I will be soon. He said, well, take this home and talk to your parents. And if you want to buy the house, that's what I'll do. Went home, took this sheet to my dad, who is a man of very few words, kind of a scary creature, 6'4", 230, tight end for the Huskies, I said, Dad, this guy, I looked at this rental house, he'd actually sell me the house, and here's what he would do. And I handed him the sheet, and he looks at it for all of 3 seconds, hands it back to me, and all he said is, probably better than renting. And he starts walking away. And I said, so I should do it? And as he's walking, he said, probably better than renting. That's all he said. So I did it. And when I say I did it, I didn't know a thing. So you can say I just fell into this. Mm-hmm. Here's where it all changed. Word got out with my 2 best buddies, Jeff and Kelly, that I now had this house. He even deferred an accrual of interest for like 3 months. He did all this. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what that was. But, I was able to start working on it before I graduated from high school, so that the night I graduated was move-in night, right? That was the timing. Jeff and Kelly heard I was doing this project. They said, hey, we're going to university too. Can we live with you? And I don't ever remember an agreement at all, but I do remember this was a moment that changed my life, is that I'm sitting there in my bedroom / laundry room / office, all of about 10 by 10, this room, and I'm writing out my first installment check, $206.10. I'm literally in the middle of writing the check. Jeff and Kelly pop their head in my room and say, hey, we're going to run around Green Lake. You want to go? I go, no, I got things to do. And they said, okay, well, here's the rent. And they literally threw a $100 bill each on my desk. I went, oh, thanks. And they left. And I proceeded to continue to write and I'm looking at $200. And I went, oh my God. Essentially, Jeff and Kelly are buying me this house. Mm-hmm. And I remember standing up, my heart was racing, and I'm like, oh my God. Because the quiet person in me, as you're approaching this time in your life, this transition time, like you're going to be an adult, you're going to be on your own. I had read a piece of script that so drew me. I memorized it. It's all I could think of, like a song in my head that wouldn't go away. I'd memorized it just in the months before this all happened. And it was awesome, and it drew me, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what was going on. You remember those times when you were that age that you had all these dreams. This is how it was going to go. This is what you were going to do. But you had no idea how to do it. All of a sudden, this vehicle, in my mind at least, pulled up like a limo and said, get in. Anywhere you want to go, get in. All you had to do was find more of these opportunities and find more Jeff and Kelly's to pay for it. That was the simple truth that I just got drawn to. This piece of script by Thoreau. He was frustrated. It wasn't going well. So he wanted to start over and do it right. And he wrote, I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately, to live deep, to suck out all the marrow of life, to put to rout all that was not life, not when I die, discover I've not lived. This idea is like, that's what I want to do. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to do things that don't matter. I want to be on purpose with what I want to do. But how do I get everything I want? And it was like philosophy met vehicle in that moment. And I became obsessed, like truly obsessed with buying real estate. And what do? I didn't know anything. Didn't know anybody who did it. But boy, I was obsessed. So I got my real estate license, started talking to everybody in the world about real estate, tried to rinse and repeat exactly the way it happened before, called every rental asking if they wanted to sell. I mean, just instincts. And of course, the trial and error of it all, I figured out a lot more very quickly on how to buy a lot more real estate. It started hard and fast when I was 18. And I don't think I looked up. It didn't even take a breath for 15 years. I mean, it was just, I was obsessed with it. And I still am. This is my 46th year of doing this. And now I get to coach and work one-on-one with the likes of you and other talented entrepreneurs saying, there's a life out there. Let's get it straight. I've made all the mistakes. So if you listen to me, you can do what I've done in 46 years in a decade. No question. So there's how it started.
Yeah. And what's interesting is the fact that you brought up you're very introverted in nature, as am I. I think a lot of successful business people are. The more successful business people I met, they're naturally just introverted. But we live in a world we're operating in an industry that forces us to have conversations, that forces us to talk to people all day long, whether that's lenders, buyers, sellers. How did you get out of your comfort zone at the age of 17 when, if you're an introvert and you're only 17, you haven't even lived life yet? There could be a lot of fear. But I also think even at the age of 20 and 30 and 40, when I talk to people about getting into real estate, there's still a lot of fear about talking to people.
Carrie, for me, it was a very, very well thought out decision that being inside my own head and quiet and reserved and that there's a place for that. And it is still my happy place. My day starts every day with 4 hours of absolute me and only me and quiet, and I can work it out. But the fact is that staying that way as you go into business doesn't serve the objectives I had in business. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve the people I want to work with. It doesn't serve my family. And so I was drawn out of that, and by choice, because of a cause. Now, what draws me out more than anything, the real estate thing I have down, but getting in front of a lot of groups and sharing my philosophy and teaching that I've done for 30 years now, that's always hard for me. But the good that I'm wanting to achieve is a greater call than the fear of opening myself up. So it's a deliberate choice, though. I don't think you go, oh, now I'm not an introvert. Right. No, I'm an introvert forever. I just choose to push through that for a greater good. And so we can make the choice. It's what so defines us. We're not a piece of furniture. We can say, all right, but I can change when I want to. I can choose this that isn't natural to me for a higher good. So yeah, I made that choice early on, and it was it was painful, but like anything, if you do it enough, you get a certain sense of confidence around it, and it becomes easier, like anything, right?
Yeah.
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 And you teach, and it's my philosophy also that life begins just outside of your comfort zone. A lot of us get stuck inside this comfort zone, this happy place where we feel comfortable. When I met you last year, I had unintentionally fallen into a comfort zone and I wasn't happy. Things were going okay. They weren't going great. And I didn't realize I had fallen into this comfort zone until I met you and heard you. It really is true that you'll live an extraordinary life when you step out of your own way and you step past that boundary of that comfort zone where your life has no boundaries anymore.
And I would take it maybe even a step further, that I don't believe there's any life. There's nothing good that's going to happen between these two lines on the thermostat, comfort zone. Keep it here. Growth happens when you are pushing your own personal limits. And sometimes life throws you into that setting in times of adversity, where maybe you didn't even choose this, but all of a sudden, okay, this is what's happening. This is when we grow. People who get sick come out of a bout with cancer going, wow, I grew more as a human being in that time than I've ever grown in my life, because you were out of your comfort zone. You were just a little bit over your skis to where you weren't in control. One of the isms that I concluded very early on in my life was that, growth is the grail. That's the objective. And that sameness is the enemy. I mean, it's literally on the side of my airplane. That's what it says. Growth is the grail. Sameness is the enemy. If tomorrow you're the same, that's a problem. There's got to be a pressing towards your capabilities right to the very last breath. And maybe that's a motivator for me, because it's rarely seen. Matter of fact, what is sought after by so many is this concept of security and comfort and passive. I hear that word passive income, and okay, everybody would like performing projects, but the idea of passive, like I don't have to do anything, I don't have to worry about it, I just mailbox money, all those kind of things offend me by philosophical definition. I want to press, I want to grow, I want to earn, I want to find the next challenge to press. That's the objective. And it comes back to, how do we keep score? Right? Moments is how I keep score. Moments where inside you've done something important within your capabilities, right? Moments are not just serendipitous accidents. They are planned endeavor, very carefully chosen. I have a tea time in a week from now. Golf. It's not about golf. The 3 gentlemen I'll be golfing with are extraordinary. But all 3 of them with me in 5 hours together, I'm already going to tell you it's a moment. I could give a shit what I shoot. That isn't it's allowing time with minds that are further down the road than me. And I mean, these are household names, and we're going to play golf. Pressing. Growth is the grail. Sameness is the enemy. Yeah. That was instilled in me early on. And it's not that you're fearless. Again, it's almost like being introverted. Fear is a component you'll have to navigate forever.
Yeah.
But courage is a choice. And so when you step in and say, yeah, scares me a little bit, but I'm going to choose it anyway. That's courage, action in spite of fear, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where our philosophies have to be so intact. People want high achievement. Everywhere I go, who doesn't want high achievement? Who doesn't want this, that, and the other thing that it's all going? The problem is that high achievement will not ever become your life without a philosophy that opens the door to possibility and intention. Your belief system, your philosophy, what you've bought into that said, this is what I believe. If that isn't intact, you'll never press through those walls of challenge. Belief is what allows you to become fearless in that moment. The belief is stronger than your own insecurities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
We're going pretty hard. It's not even 10 o'clock where I'm.
Well, it's 12:30 here on the East Coast. I want to talk about some of the adversity that you've gone through, because it had a huge impact on me hearing your story of some of the experiences that you've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to share it with the group, because I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned out of the adversity that you've gone through, and some of the setbacks, major setbacks that you had that may or may not have been fair, but they happened.
Yeah. I think step one is that one of my philosophies is that nothing happens to me.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for absolutely everything. Everything. Even those things that seem completely out of the blue. I believe that if you don't take responsibility for everything, then the door is open for another outcome. In other words, if you do take responsibility, you now have the power to change what happens next. If you give away your power, now you are a victim. I'm not a victim to anything.
Yeah.
And under the umbrella of adversity, I have learned, I know this sounds completely crazy, but it's a belief system. I've learned to lean into and love adversity because of the backside of it, the greatest lessons, the greatest building of strength and character, the greatest tuition you'll ever pay is a tuition of pain. And so if you're going through pain, don't waste it. Really understand that this is a rare opportunity. Very few people get in this kind of class, so you better utilize it. And I've had a few chapters. I mean, in 46 years, I wanted to tell you quite honestly, and it's not trying to paint me as a different, but I look around. I know that I've lived 3 times the life of most everybody I see. And so really, I'm about 150 years into this. And in 150 years, if you drive that many miles, and if you are putting yourself out there, you're going to get in a wreck at some point along the way. It's just, and in our world, I can give you what I call celebrity training. The bigger the billboard, the easier you are to hit.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. I talked to one of my great students, who very smart guy, #1 in his graduating class at Harvard Law, went on to become chief counsel of Microsoft. Very smart guy. He told me one time that pick a day, any day of the week, Bill Gates has no less than 200 personal lawsuits that we're defending. I went, what?
I believe it.
He's just a big target, Greg. He's got a lot of money. And we settle 95% of them out of court because, it's more costly to go to court than it is to just pay somebody. Like an insurance company.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Bigger the target, the more it's going to come your way. Now, okay, that being said, in this journey, in this journey, the objective for me, once that bell was rung when I was 18, my objective was that I was going to be on the arena floor doing my own thing, never having a job until my last breath on planet Earth. That was it. And I also had no pretense that the arena floor is a dangerous place. Mm-hmm. If you want to grab a sword and go out there where the lions are, you're going to get bit a few times. Any thinking other than that is naive. So I expected that I'm going to get beat up a little bit, but that's okay. The stands were not for me. The observation deck with a mimosa was not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be right down here where real people do real things, and sometimes you get beat up. Well, okay, so it's not just one thing, it's many things. But the chapter you're talking about set the stage, a very large real estate company. My company focused on acquisition. So I've got a lot of young entrepreneurs, and hell, I'm young myself at the time. I'm in my early 30s, and I've got a big, very aggressive group of buying agents and brokers in my office. I've got hundreds in my class at the university. I'm pressing, and I'm working hard, and I'm trying to keep it all eyes on everything. You know, I'm the broker, the professor, the business owner, the general contractor. I mean, I'm wearing a lot of hats. This particular situation is where it started with an agent in my office, a young kid in his 20s, and he put a second mortgage on an acquisition, a single family acquisition, non-owner occupied. He put a second mortgage on the property the same day as the first position mortgage closed the deal. Okay, so basically $100,000 deal. He got an $80,000 loan. He put $20,000 down. On the same day, he borrowed $20,000 from an investor and put a second deed of trust on the property. Okay? Simple enough scenario to understand. The problem is that the first position mortgage has language that says, on the day of closing, buyer, seller, and escrow warrant that there's no secondary financing associated with this transaction. Well, there was. Now, why was there? Well, he had investors lined up to recapitalize his down payment. This particular investor was in town for that day and that day only, wanted to escrow the same day. Young agent knew what the law said, knew what the paperwork on the first position mortgage said. Young agent gets mortgage broker and escrow all on the same page. Mortgage broker says, no problem. Just the spirit of the law is that we are recorded in first position. So between escrow and her, it was ensured that they were in first position. She said, no problem, because that's why this rule says that. Well, this paper is federal paper. Think about this. These loan documents are federally governed loan documents. Mm-hmm. In a sub-escrow, it was discovered that there was a second mortgage on the same day. In a sub-escrow, this particular lender files what's called a suspicious activity report. Who investigates federal suspicious activity? That's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Who comes knocking on the door? They hand this file to me as the broker, the owner. Do you have this agent in your office? Yes. Can you explain this file? It looks like a second mortgage. I said, well, no, we know what that first position loan document says. So recording it the next day or a day after, he said, well, if you did that, I wouldn't be here. No issues with that. But on the same day, you see, we have to understand this. I tracked it down, told him what happened. It was all done very carefully so that the first position was recorded in first. Gave him the information, and he went on his way. The next year of my life, every week I would get a call from somebody that I bought real estate from saying, hey, they said not to tell you, but guess who just left my house? The FBI. And I knew there was some big investigation going on.
Mm.
A year later, I get the call from the prosecutor, Western District, United States, introduces himself, tells me I have a meeting the next day, and that also who's coming is the lender, the escrow person, and 2 agents in my office. On that day, he said that it started with this investigation with the second mortgage recorded on the same day as the first. They looked into me immediately and saw I'm young. I've got a lot of real estate. I have a house on the waterfront that I built, and I drive a Porsche. I don't know what they found out. They also looked into my parents, that they don't have money. So they thought, geez, how did this all happen, right? And so they started an investigation. And after a year and spending about $1 million of taxpayers' money, they came up with 6 times under the sphere of my influence, where a second mortgage was put on a property the same day as the first without the first position lender's written approval. And because it was with the same lender, the same escrow person, they concluded this is like a conspiracy.
Mm.
And I'm the professor, I'm the broker, I'm the guy in charge, so I must be the leader of the conspiracy. And they gave a plea agreement to all of us that said, if you all agree in the next 4 hours to this deal, all of you have to all agree, we will only prosecute all of you for 1 count of conspiracy to commit bank fraud. Of these 6 properties, of course, they've all been sold. Everybody's been paid off. There wasn't even any exposure. They looked at hundreds and hundreds of transactions. Over 100 were the exact same model, but where the second was put on the next day or the day after. Those are white as driven snow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine, as a young person, I was really upset with this. I don't tell lies. I don't steal. I'm an Eagle Scout, for crying out loud. My dad's an Eagle Scout. My brother's an Eagle Scout. We were raised right. So I was livid. Well, that did nothing. You only had 4 hours to make a decision. And if one person held out, nobody gets the deal. We brought in the best counsel. They said, you have no choice. They've got you surrounded. All they have to do is prove recording dates. That's it. Recording dates. If the second's recorded the same day as the first, that's it. So we signed a plea agreement at 10 minutes to 5 on that day. I've never even had a major traffic ticket at that point. Bottom line is, I'm the leader now of a conspiracy. I'm the extra bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the minimum sentencing guidelines, you're going to get sentenced within the guidelines of that agreement. The day of sentencing, Judge William Dyer was handed the case to carry out sentencing. He did not like his job. He made it very, very clear. This is an abuse of the justice system, but he had no choice.
Right.
He also told me words I'll never forget. Mr. Pinneo, I don't know why this is happening to you, but I want you to find a way to make this wrong or right. And oh man, that made me upset for several years. Like, why should I have to make somebody's wrong or right? But again, it was the reality. He sentenced me, minimum on the guideline was a fine of $25,000, 13 months in prison. If you have good behavior, you'll be out in 9 or 10 months. Loss of broker's license for 10 years. That's all minimum guidelines. And so I went. And it would be a waste of time to tell you, but imagine if whenever you want to get here, it's up to us. Like, you make your reservation. Nobody's on bail. Nobody's worried about me running. It's like, the sooner you get here, the sooner you get out. So you tell us when you want to show up. And I did everything I could think of that I needed to do in about 3.5 months. Sold a lot of properties to pay bills a year in advance. I did everything I could to be responsible because I didn't know what I was getting into. And I went and saw a world that up to that point, I'm a middle-class white kid that got B students at a public high school. And it was a bit like going to a different world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very thankful for some basic blessings. I'm thankful I'm a really good handball player. That made me valuable in prison. It got me protected by the Hispanics who play handball a lot and they bet on it. So I was sort of the golden goose that they wanted me in good shape. That was great. I thank Hector every day of my life that he also loved handball because he and his guys kept an eye on me. My angel, I just had connected with Shauna. If you know the story, she was there. So I knew who was with me. And it also was pretty revealing about your world when you go through something like that, or something that's difficult. Could be a divorce, could be a lot of different things, but you find out who's really there for you. It's a little bit shattering, but it's good to know. I'm a pilot. Yeah, I may not like that this gauge is doing what it's doing, but I'd rather know what's happening than not know what's happening.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of great lessons looking back.
Yeah.
At the time, it was a world that I didn't know existed, a language that I didn't know, a space that I didn't know. I've always been in control of my life, or at least I thought I had. Well, now you're not in any control. You do what you're told. Anyway, I won't bore you with that, but it was a challenging chapter. But again, I went in. I asked who I felt were my best friends to write me their philosophy in 100 words or less. And so I had about 200 of those philosophical quotes from individuals. I memorized all of them and still have them in my mind. There's a lot of really good wisdom that I went in with, used my mind to write, think, run, Anyway, yep, I got out. I mean, this is a long time now, but
yeah.
It's out on the 18th of March. I was married to Shauna on the 21st of March, and I turned 40 on the 26th of March. So that was a week I'll never forget. And it seems like a long time ago now, but again, it's a bit like David, who inadvertently didn't realize he was being trained. The lion wanders into his sheep and he doesn't know what to do, so he gets out a sling and kills it. Wow, I'm pretty capable with this sling. Then the bear wanders into his sheep and another time and he kills the bear. Well, little does he know that downstream of his life, he now walks into the Philistine army and here's this dude called Goliath. And everybody's freaked out by him. But David wasn't. I look at that chapter as being a chapter that just busted the fear gauge. I don't have fear anymore. I mean, I hear a rattling saber and I think, oh my God, if you knew how little my gauge is moving right now, you'd be the one worried. Because this is perspective. I would like to think, Carrie, that I've lived in a home that I built that cost me $8.3 million, where the bed was built in. You know what I mean? This amazing bed on the waterfront of this amazing home. And I've slept on a cot in prison. Foul language and fear all around you. And at this point, I can honestly tell you that I'm the same guy in either place. I make my list, I get up, I get done what I'm going to get done. I live in my head most of the time. Those are all good things. And so it made me feel stronger now that we're past it. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. There's some wisdom to that. Yeah.
You've had some chapters in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I follow the philosophy that life happens for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, you said that was a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
but from there, you continue to grow from that experience that you went through.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that came out of that? How did you make that wrong a right, I guess is my question.
Well, I'm going to give Shauna a lot of credit.
And Shauna, you guys, is the beautiful picture behind.
Oh yeah,
Greg.
that actually, that exact picture was sent to me when I was in prison. She took it or had it taken and sent to me.
Wow.
And while in prison, I've never drawn a picture in my life, but I took a number 2 pencil and a Q-tip and I drew that exact picture, drew it, not this one you're looking at. I drew that exact picture though, that's in my office. And it took me 6 months, but it actually turned out pretty good. You'll see it sometime. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll give Shauna the credit. Prior to meeting Shauna, I mean, we met and literally she was engaged when we met, like a year before this whole, court sentencing. But on sentencing day, she was engaged to be married when I met her. On sentencing day, there she was among about 500 people there in support of me. When the place finally cleared out, she's the last one sitting there. And I couldn't believe it, because when I met her a year ago, I knew I would spend the rest of my life with her. Well, now here she is. She doesn't have a wedding ring on. From that moment on, she is my life. She didn't know those years of 400 kids in a lecture hall at the university when I'm teaching. She didn't know those years of philosophy meetings at closed door real estate office with all these young, Jedis. But while I was away, she lived at the home I built, the first home I built on the water, and she got emails and things, and she heard from lots and lots of students. And she would read the emails going, you've got this, and these really nice emails. And so she would write me letters going, tell me about this chapter. And I was mad at that time. It's like, oh, you mean that chapter of Under the Sphere of My Influence? That chapter? I'm not going to say another word to anybody in the world about real estate ever again. Right? Because then you become responsible for their actions. You know what I mean? That was my attitude at the time. I was upset. I was mad. When I got home, it wasn't like, oh, I'm home, married, now life is good. I was angry.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk to anybody. Matter of fact, if you looked at me sideways, I'd pick a fight with you. I mean, I was just mad. And it was a tough couple of years. And it was really her discovery of, I've got to get him back on the horse. The way to make a wrong a right is to get back on the horse and teach again. She would say, that's who you are. At the time, I'm like, that is the last thing I'm going to do. But she was persistent. And as I started teaching again and making this a centerpiece of why I'm doing it, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me to try to make your success is going to pay my tuition. That's the way I looked at it. And, I remember the day when I thought, you know what? This has actually worked. Way more good has come of this that never would have happened than what I went through to be motivated to do this. And then it's been much more enjoyable since then. Up to that point, it was just trying to amortize the tuition. And so she is very responsible for that. Now, that being said, I am a real estate entrepreneur. This is what I do. I can't imagine a day in my life where I don't have my own projects going on. That's just what I do. But having been at it so long, I do have a heart for entrepreneurship. I have the heart for independence it's what I do has given me a life that I don't anybody who has a life like mine. I really don't. And I want that for people. And so it's like your children. You want them to do better than you.
Yeah.
That being said, Carrie, maybe you will agree, maybe you won't, but I don't view myself as a typical coach or a typical teacher. I'm raw. I say it like it is. A lot of people can't handle it. Everybody wants a trophy. I don't give out trophies unless you get shit done and do it really well. A lot of sensitive people that if you go, okay, listen, now we're going to do it again, and here's how I want you to do it, or here's how I want you to say, or I don't care if you don't like it. This is what you got to do. I want it done 100 times by tomorrow. If I say something like that, a lot of people can't handle that.
Yeah.
And if I were trying to market myself, I mean, the disclaimer, I've literally written a disclaimer like, okay, why don't you just read this before we should work together? Because I'm tough, I'm old, I'm opinionated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so I only connect with those who, well, like yourself, who really, you and your husband, who dig in, who can take it, who want it straight. And so I don't know if that answers that question, but a lot of good things have come out of that. A lot of, I get to work with the best of the best because they want it that bad. Anyone else, believe me, I blow them away within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So something like Power Players that you attended, you got to really want to get your ass kicked and be there and be the best of the best, or you shouldn't be here. This isn't like a casual little meeting and let's have donuts in the morning. No, we're going at 5. We're pressing. We're pressing with our knowledge, our language of real estate, the following actions. We're pressing our philosophy.
Yeah.
And if you're ready to press, you'll have my attention.
Yeah.
If you want a casual walking into this, I don't believe in that. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
I can see him clicking off right now. Yeah.
No, so it's funny. Howie and I, my husband Howie, we now have a saying. Is this BP before Pinneo or AP after Pinneo? Really, truly, we do. This was BP before Pinneo. This is AP. This is after we met you, Greg. Our thought processes have changed. Our way of thinking has changed. You have taught us to bite off more than we can chew and figure out how to swallow it. And I was just telling my husband yesterday, it's getting tough to chew right now, but it's exciting. It's like, can we swallow all of this?
When it's passion driven, when you're seeking those things that are worth your heart, they're worth your endeavor. When passion fuels what you're doing, you'll always find a way.
Yeah.
If it's a fear motivation, you'll get tired of being afraid. You just, it's not worth it. I'm not running anymore. I'm not. But when passion pulls you, fear repels, right? They're two people may be looking like they're moving in the same direction, but being pushed by fear, it has a shelf life. Being pulled to those things that are nearly impossible and passionately drawing in life and in real estate and in business and in endeavor, you will always find a way because you believe. You see, when we believe, when we step out, I can just hear Providence. I swear I can hear him go, oh, wow, courageous. I have this saying that when you take a step of courage, Providence gets off the bench and in the game. It's that woo-woo thing that all of a sudden, things that never would have happened. And I just think that focused intention, when you really want something bad enough, you hear and see every clue that will get you there.
Yeah.
Right? Your heightened awareness of everything that can work in your favor, you notice it because you're so passionate about what you're doing. Whereas if you're being angrily pushed along something, there could be a freaking red carpet going here and you just walk right past it because you're not into it. And so I couldn't imagine taking 1 minute of my life, not 1 minute, doing something that I'm not passionate about.
Yeah.
That to me is what life is. I hear people say, oh, it's almost Friday. We're going to have a day on the weekend. I'm like, or we're going to go on vacation our week a year and we're going to really live then. Every single day I want all of that and then some.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you will, and it falls under the heading, Carrie, that I truly believe, because I am so damn normal. I'm an old shoe. I'm not extraordinary by birth or anything else. But this is the good news, that if we can get our belief system straight, what we're capable of doing is 1,000 times what most people can even dream of. Matter of fact, dreaming is essential for the entrepreneur. It's arrival before departure. And people that live that way do more.
Yeah.
Live more. You're living more, Yeah. And you'll have this influence. As you live more, your kids see what living is about. The people around you, your podcasts, they look at you like, how do you do this? How do you live this way? And if you really think about it, if you're able, and we're all able, you're obligated to live a very important life because people are watching.
Yeah.
I've got 7 kids and 2 grandkids. I am reminded every single day that you chicken out, they'll chicken out.
Yeah.
You say it can't be done, they'll say it can't be done. And so we're obligated to live this life that we're capable of. It takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of heart. But once you start moving in that direction, you become intolerant of wasted moments, of shallow conversations, of endeavor that doesn't add up to anything. It's like eating cotton candy all day. You feel sick. It's not nutritious. You're not full. You're empty. The meat of life is why we wake up in the morning. Our verse, our cause, our purpose, our why. And if you're disconnected with that, I don't know where you start. We've got to know that. Then all of the work makes sense. All of the study makes sense. That your why is here, and everything that goes into it all of a sudden has purpose and heart now. Even the most difficult, arduous task has purpose because it's moving towards something that really matters.
Yeah.
What really matters. So, yeah, crazy.
Well, what's crazy is we haven't even really talked real estate. But that's what this is all about, right? It's not just real estate.
The toolbox of real estate, as many hundreds and hundreds of hours as I've put into that is the easy part.
Yeah.
The systems, the business model, the drafting of clauses, the substitution of security, the first right of refusal, lease option that follows the declining principal balance. You name it. These are all technical terms of real estate. They're models. They're strategies. Without an engine, that all just sits in the trunk and is useless. There's so many closets full of education people have bought that are in some dusty closet somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Our mind around what we want and a belief system that says, I can do it. Our belief system, think of it like a hard drive, is installed by the time we're 5 years old. Most adults don't even know it, much less question it. And yet here we now are in our 20s and go, wow, I want to win the Indy 500. But what was installed in terms of belief is a Volkswagen Bug. You want it, you can see it, but your belief disqualifies the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, you live, as Thoreau describes, a life of quiet desperation. Because your belief system doesn't allow you to move in that direction. Working with adults every day of my life, getting them out of their own way and getting belief systems that allow us to move forward is always step one. And I listen carefully to the language of your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Because once we have a place to start from, now we can start implementing tools and strategies, and they get done and they get results. And when you get results, it automatically upgrades your belief system. It's like a 2.0 upgrade. And that's how life should be, is this upward and outward and upward and outward. And isn't that the description of growth?
Mm-hmm.
Upward and outward. Every year more amazing than the last. Sameness is the enemy. And so you can see how philosophically there's the camp of those who truly believe growth and endeavor is the point, and a huge majority who just want things comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that philosophy will never create abundance. It never will.
Yeah.
And so we got to get this before any of the tools and strategies make any sense at all. Yeah. Once you know the tools and you have that, wow.
Yeah. It's the left
You
brain
truly
meeting the
can
right
do-
brain.
Yeah, yeah. And you're seeing it. You're feeling it. You know, you got deals going right now that philosophy is now applying tools.
Yeah.
But without philosophy, this just lays in the trunk, never used. Make sense?
Yeah.
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 This is the school of life. It's not just about the tools.
And then you get to the side when you start, your philosophy aligns with tools and you start getting results, and then you're called on, as you are, to teach, to give back, because giving back and giving period is an essential philosophy to growth, essential philosophy to abundance.
Yeah.
Believe that, you find time every single day to do what you're doing, which is giving. You know, you're going to be a giving, hardworking teacher's assistant at Power Players coming up. You'll be on the other side of the desk teaching. And what will happen is that the more you give, the more you grow, as well as benefit those around you.
Yeah.
Philosophy. Yeah.
I think that we're going to have you on for another episode, because we didn't really even touch real estate, but I don't care, because this was what we needed to start with today.
Well, we can do toolbox, and that's, I'm in love with the tools of real estate. I'm in love with the power of our business.
Yeah.
But this is definitely the horse, and that is the cart.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for allowing us to cover some of that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be in Sedona in August. I will be there as a teacher's assistant, which I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Is there somewhere listeners can go to just look at what Power Players is?
Sure.
I don't promote a lot on this show.
Yeah.
I don't endorse a lot on the show, but I'm going to let you all know that Power Players is just an amazing event. This will be my second time going, and I'll be on the other side of things, helping teach the event, and I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah. Power Players is an application, as you know. It's a very thorough application to get in. And as far as Sedona, in August, it has been sold out now for quite some time. But the following February is the next Power Players. And that one will also be in Arizona. And, the best way if somebody is that serious to want to go into that kind of intensive, because Power Players is an intensive, is to just give me a call. I mean, you can go to the website, our website, the core company, and read about it, but I'm the gatekeeper of Power Players. No assholes in Power Players, not like that. I mean, I am the gatekeeper, and so I'm gonna get a full application, and then I'm gonna talk to people to really see that, listen, not only do you want this badly, but you have a heart that wants it for the right reasons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, making a lot of money does not change people, by the way. If you were an asshole before you had money, you're just a bigger asshole now that you have money.
Yeah.
So I want to weed all that out so that people's financial success does the right kinds of things for themselves, their family, their community, etc. And so, I'm very careful who I teach what I teach to, because I can teach you how to make a lot of money, but I'm careful who I do that with. I just need to meet more Carrie and Howie's, right? And there's 1,216 Power Players in this country, and I'm very proud of all of them. They're stirring it up everywhere. And that's over 18 years of doing this. So it's been a heartfelt effort of that intensive, watching people go do incredible things in their life and in their community. So I'm very proud of that. They're like my kids. So,
yeah. Well, I'm excited to meet more of them. I'm excited to spend some more time with Shauna and your beautiful children.
Yeah.
And good things are happening on the horizon.
Yeah. Well, thank you for allowing this time to happen, Carrie. And if I can talk toolbox at some point in the future, I'm always happy to do that.
All right, guys. So the core company is where you can find Greg. His phone number is on there. Just reach out to him if you have any questions or want to connect with him. Thank you again, Greg, for this time with us today.
Thanks, Carrie. We'll talk soon.
All right. Remember, guys, you're just one deal away. Take care.